lonely men do lonely things. I've spent my life proving to women that I am not a hitting thing, not a senseless thing, not a sexual ape-like thing, but a sensitive thing, a thing capable of emotion and intimacy. Lonely men do lonely things, and I've seen what loneliness can do to a man. Watched it corrupt the chapters of his spine, watched it rot the embers of his mind.
It's an interesting topic, I think, because it's almost a juxtaposition, fragile, and the idea of masculinity being tough and, you know, whatever else is associated with being masculine. So it's actually quite interesting when people talk about fragile masculinity, because that's what masculinity really is as a concept. It's fragile. It can't even stand on its own legs, because it's not, can I say, it's not realistic. People can't conform to all these identities that are placed on them by society and so on and so forth. So by virtue of definition, the concept itself cannot fulfill its definition, therefore it's fragile.
Fragile masculinity is a concept that deals with the state of being of predominantly males, where they are forced by society to conform to a particular male gender stereotype, usually heteronormative.
Yeah, as a man, it wasn't easy to growing up in Korea. There's a famous proverb in Korea says, "Man supposed to cry 3 times in a life. First is when you get born. Second is when your parents died. Third is when you lost your country." So it means it implies we can't cry or we can't outburst our emotion according to that we feel or how we think about it.
Being very sex driven and being said that they are only purely sexual beings.
Where a man is forced to act out by society to act in a particular way and to do particular things that is associated or valued by that society, associated with masculinity, and that is valued by that society.
You see, this fragility of masculinity manifests itself in so many different ways, but particularly in the controlled environments like school, for example.
Never really thought about it, but I don't think I've ever been bullied.
Like physically bullying, not like verbally or stuff like that.
I have been bullied when I was younger. I think I was around about the age of 8, 9. When I was younger, I was fat, like on a level where it was called obese. I was born a big baby, so I don't know if it's part of my genes. Maybe it was, maybe not. But I was fat on primary school, and since I was a young kid, I remember like I never used to play a lot with other kids, like my grandmother, my grandfather, my mom and my daddy never allowed me to play with other kids when I was younger and still in creche or pre-primary school. So I always grew this inner dialogue with myself everywhere I go, inner emotional thing. And I think that for a boy at my age was probably like very weird for the others to see. So being fat as well, they didn't like it. They thought I was weird. And I was called names like I'm a bumpy, fatty
and because of that I get pushed around, but not by bullies, but like by my friends.
And I don't think it has.
His friends are the police.
Yeah.
I can't think of a specific, but the most recent one, probably matric, and then actually yeah, basically just from grade 8 to 12, but not to such an exterior extent. It was in my business studies class. It was just one guy, but everyone kind of, what is the word? Kind of let him on, if that's correct. Because after he'd say something, then everyone would laugh, and like no one would actually like say no, stop it, or don't pick on this guy, whatever. It had to do with the race. I used to say a lot of things based on race. The one thing I remember, he told me, hey, and then he said my name, and then it's like, did you know your dad was part of the 9/11 attack, and did you know that you were born in Baghdad? that was the most memorable.
In Namibia, bullying is not very big. Schools are very strict against it.
And I said I really love football and I'd like to do something, can be football management for fun, or just be a football journalist, totally. And the whole class laughed. And after class, I just had, the boys on my classes telling me that I cannot do it because I'm not cut out for it. I know nothing about football. Meanwhile, that's something I love.
High school, from grade 7 to 9 on, we don't have any school uniforms in Germany, so everybody wears what he wants to wear or she wants to wear, and obviously depending on what the parents buy somebody. And my parents never bought me brand names, just no names, and yeah, people get mobbed because of this. I also was a victim of mobbing sometimes, and
Actually, I've been bullied throughout my schooling experience up until about grade 9, but the worst was in my grade 8 and my grade.
It is the worst form of bullying. When people tell you that you cannot do what you love, when people know what you love and they take that and they use it against you by telling you that you cannot do it. I think for me that's the worst form of bullying. It has its effect can stretch for over a lifetime.
So as a man being bullied, it's an interesting, it's a bad experience, but it's interesting nonetheless, in the sense that you are told by society, and I'm speaking in very general terms, to be strong, to be tough, to be the protector, and yet when you are being bullied, usually by older boys or bigger or stronger boys, to some extent even girls, tougher girls, it breaks down that entire idea that you hold.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think bullying is it's kind of behaviour where people are being pressurised, I think, to kind of do things or not do things, and it reflects, I think, a kind of power relationship where people are putting pressure upon those who lack power to do certain things or call them certain kind of names, and it's sort of involved. I think bullying is really putting people down, actually, in certain ways, and sort of making fun of them, ridiculing them, abusing them in certain kinds of ways, and it can be, it can take the form of physical hitting people, or it can be more sort of mental and about just making people feel very uncomfortable and out of place. So I think it's kind of around those kind of things.
I remember when I went to a dentist when I was young, and I cried because I was scared, and then my mom, instead of letting me cry out after the treatment, she hit me on my back several times and says, she's always saying, men are not supposed to cry. Crying is stupid, because I'm a boy, and I was a grown-up boy. Even I was like 5 or 6 years old, and yeah, those autonomous fears always going on. Men with crying tears out of the eyes. That symbolize like weakness instead of to being honest. That was kind of, yeah, I want to say obvious, but I hope those kind of cultures are not anymore stays in at least family. Yeah, I really try to be honest and then try to show my emotion during the family members. But this kind of atmosphere or Korean traditional culture that stops me even being honest to my kids, or yeah, I can't imagine I crying out in front of my kids because of my feeling or emotion. I gotta be a strong dad or leader of the family or dictate them what to do instead of being honest or being a friend with them. Yeah, those kind of culture, even I'm South Korean and from Asia,